Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dale Gala. I host the Flying Aces One Loft race in Minnesota. This is my setup, and this is to show you what it's all about and how we do things around here. These sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections here are used for the One Loft race. The birds are in the different sections for when it comes time for settling. These different age groups, by having them in different sections, I can settle them better without losing a lot of birds, and it turns out what I need to do. That works out the best. So the different age groups get different sections until it's all run together once they're all settled. And that's how that is. The birds are always fed on the outside of the loft. Nothing on the inside. The birds are fed on the outside. The pigeons don't pick up nothing off the floor, even though I have a raised floor, but it's still that way. Trapping allows the birds, fast trapping is without a problem with that. When birds come from the race, the first bird or first drop is sectioned into a section right away by itself. The second drop the same way, so there's never a problem with missing a bird or the counter mark chip not working or anything like that. Then the bird can be counted. With the trailer thing, there's 4 different levels. The doors on this side all flap down, they all come down, and then the wall, I move a wall way back here, and the whole wall moves the birds into the trailer without no scaring, no chasing. And then the doors are closed up, and waterers are always hung right out here on every toss, so the birds understand and learn how to drink. This part here is solid across here, keeps the wind off them, especially when there's cold weather like this. And when the birds come to me, first of all, they come into here. It's sectioned off so that everybody's breeders' birds stay together. I don't put more than 3 together in a crate, in a pen at a time, and they do drink separate water. So the birds all come to here, and they stay here probably usually about 3 days. By that time, I can see what the droppings all look like, and because initially when they come right out of the crate, you got to expect loose droppings, but not 3 days later. They should be looking the way like this. And so that's how it comes. Birds all come in here to go to this. I move it out here if I need to for more daylight, or not daylight so much, but I mean just so they see better. Also, after that, then they come to this section over here, which is on the east side of the loft, where they get to see the natural sunrise. I want the young birds to see the natural sunrise first. They got a fly pen over here on the side window there to go outside. They get to see what things look like. Pigeons ain't settled unless they know where they live, and they learn to live by where the sun is. Okay, so from that section then they get moved over down the line here to this section over here, where this is the section that they get settled from. They get settled from this part over here. All the birds get moved over here. As they come out of there, then they come here, they get settled, then they get moved to another section, and they move to a different section as the different age groups come down the line and the birds get settled. And the advantage I have here is I see everything that goes on in the loft. There's no hiding places, there's no crooked corners. I know exactly what goes on. And that's why I designed the loft 30 years ago, but designed it for visual, be able to see what's going on. And so that's how that works out well. Naturally, waterers are up high The birds, when I'm weaning the youngsters, there again, this water is lower to the ground. And also I put a water pot in there with the, so they learn to drink, you know, where the drink is before they get moved over here. One thing I always think is important is I never move the pigeons with my hands. I never try to chase them around or move them like that. I always use a stick. You always use a long stick. This way they're never afraid of your hands. You walk up to them and they're not worried about you. And I got to move them with the stick in order to make them go away. This way the birds stay tamer. They're close pens. Without being crowded. I do the darkening system for the young bird team. And what it amounts to, you got to have ventilation. If you have darkening without ventilation, you're in trouble, plain and simple. So what it amounts to, there's a total skylight across the whole front of the building. And in order for me to make the darkening, I do this route here. Close that up like so fashion. And then these curtains aren't just for decoration. Close it up like so fashion. Now you have a nice dark section, which is like 10 o'clock at night. It's not black. It's about 10 o'clock at night. That's the light that I want to see. The way I do it, the birds have a morning sunrise. The birds, I want to, there again, pigeons don't know where they live unless they know where the sun is. They moved up, they get a morning sunrise. I come back out here, I close the loft down about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 5 o'clock, depends upon the day, what happens. And then I close the loft down, and then at 10 o'clock at night, I come back out, I watch the news, I come back outside, and then I open the loft up so they have the morning sunrise. All right, the other thing that's, like I said, with ventilation, you have to have ventilation. There's a ceiling fan above the false ceiling that draws the air out and goes through the ridge vent along the whole length of the building. Not powerful, just when you take a cigar and smoke it, you'll see it drift up. And that's all I want. I don't want no air blowing on them. I just give the fresh air to them. That's what it is. What I like about the louvered walls and doors, I can partition them off naturally. Lets air flow through. Birds are still not staring at each other. It lets the air flow. It lets the air come in with the door shut. It lets ventilation. Ventilation. Okay. I can close off any section I want without the birds being prisonered in a bad environment by letting let the air come through. And they have all the light they need with the skylight. And I alternate them out with the fly pen area. Well, that's how I feed the birds through the season, okay? When the birds first come to me, they get the good, high, rich feed, high protein, when they're first settled, when they're first brought in here, so that they're still growing, they're babies, they're feathering out. They have to have a good, rich feed in the beginning here. It's all kinds of different stuff I use on it. That big variety of all kinds of grains, everything in it. Now, what I also like to do is give them some lemon juice and garlic powder with brewer's yeast on it. It's good gut bacteria. It fills the gut up with good bacteria. The birds don't have worms with this stuff. In case there's they brought in something. It just works out really good, and the birds stay healthy as heck with it. And they don't get it every day, but they get it quite often, quite a bit. I just sprinkled a little bit of juice on it, lemon juice. Mix her up for a coffee can. Take one to 2 tablespoons. Every year I use a whole jug of this stuff. Just sprinkle it on like that, so fashion. Mix it up again. Now I use half a tablespoon on the other half. Mix it up. And then it's ready to be fed. That's the kind of stuff that they get. And they don't get it every day, but they get it a lot. And then after they're settled flying, or before I start training, I should say. Before I start training, I start cutting down on the high protein type feed. And where's my thing here? I put this away. And then I cut the feed back down to when I want them to start racing and flying a lot. Then I cut I use the same feed, but I cut it with barley. I add more barley to the mix. So it gets down to like about a 14%. And the mix this way, the birds eat all they need, and they leave the barley that they don't want because they don't really care for the barley. And they're getting out what they want, they need, and I know I'm not overfeeding, and they fly like a buzzard. They start flying like crazy with it because it's not loading them down, it's not creating too much fat, and it works very well for me. And they'll get this throughout the race season, except now when it got really cold, I added more corn to the feed to let it because the birds need it to warm up. And that's what it amounts to, and build them up a little bit. But they fly, race, and fly really, really well with this mix. That's what I do, and I don't never buy a lot of feed at one time. I don't keep a lot of feed on hand. I don't want the space, I don't want the rodents, I don't want bugs. And that's what it amounts to. The day of the race, they're going to get this feed here. They're going to get the light feed now. Last night they had a lot of heavy mix. Today they get their light mix. I don't want them bulked up on the race day. I want them ready to digest quickly. And they got plenty of carbohydrates, full of carbohydrates as well.